The testimony of the first witness today as the trial against Saddam Hussein, the deposed Iraqi leader, and 7 co-defendants resumed this morning in Baghdad. We were watching the witness by the name of Ali Hassan Mohammed al-Haidari, who was 14 years at the time of the Dujil assassination attempt, which failed against Saddam Hussein, and which was followed by atrocities after that, as we were hearing from the witness al-Haidari, what happened to him, what happened to his entire family. He said that people from 6 years old to 77 years old from his family were detained, arrested, tortured. He was describing all these incidents to the chief judge, Rizgar Mohammed Amin, who was listening. And also behind him, we see Saddam Hussein also listening very attentively to what this witness is saying. I'd like to bring in now Anish Raman. He is in that courtroom. He joins us now on the phone with more on this. Anish, what struck you? You have actually met this witness and talked to him. What struck you about what you were hearing today?
Well, he was forceful in character as he was when I met him. And just to add some color to what's taking place right now, and again, you're seeing a video delay. About 10 minutes ago, Saddam Hussein interrupted the witness. He requested that time be given for noon prayers. The judge said that that was not going to take place. He would have time to pray later and that the trial would go forward. The witness, by the way, as well said he would be willing to defer his testimony for prayer. Again, the judge said, go forward with your testimony. Well, just a few minutes ago, again, 10 minutes after the judge continued the trial, it seems Saddam Hussein deciding to begin prayers on his own. He has shifted himself in his chair facing the prosecution. He usually faces the judge, his back to the defense, and is going through the motions of prayer as we speak. And as I'm down here, it's unclear whether the judge is sort of halting that or doing anything. But up until this moment, it's been a fairly subdued Saddam Hussein. He entered the courtroom, as he always does, last of the 8 defendants. The defendants, the earlier ones, the 7 co-defendants of Saddam Hussein, entered really visibly upbeat, all of them saluting the court, saluting each other as they entered the courtroom. That is something that you will not see on this video that is essentially at some level censored. Saddam Hussein, as he entered, all of the other defendants stood up, as did many of the defense lawyers. They, of course, still acknowledge him as president of Iraq. And then he seated, and we did not hear from him. We heard from Barzan Hassan al-Takriti, Saddam Hussein's half-brother, earlier in the session before the witness began. He was silenced essentially by the judge so the process could go forward. But the diatribes that Saddam Hussein is known to embark upon in the midst of these trials, especially during the witness testimony, has not, it seems, come today. But as I was saying, just about 10 minutes ago, Saddam Hussein requesting that the proceedings halt for noon prayers, the judge saying that the trial would go forward, and it seems as this trial does go forward, Saddam Hussein has decided to begin prayers on his own.
I wanted to go back, Anish, to what we listened to a little bit earlier on this delayed tape that we just finished watching, and the testimony of al-Haidari, in which he pointed to the finger at Barzan. He said Barzan was there. He asked what's wrong with me when he was suffering from a fever. What is the significance of fingering specifically Barzan al-Takriti?
Well, it can't be said enough. This is a trial, and guilt has to be proven. It is not assumed. And so as the prosecution builds this case, they will have to prove direct links, not just to Saddam Hussein at the top, but to the 7 co-defendants to these alleged atrocities. Now, we've had some 7 or 8 witnesses that have come before. This is the first of 5 witnesses we expect to hear in this period of the trial. And only a few of them, maybe 2, have directly linked any of the defendants to what they witnessed, what they saw in the aftermath of that failed assassination attempt. We heard a number of them say, I blame Saddam Hussein because he was president of Iraq. But in terms of specifics, as you say, the man that you're seeing now on your screen, Ali Haidari, really the strongest connection we've seen yet to Barzan Hassan al-Takriti. He's placed him not only in jail, but in the actual interrogation area where they were taken within the village after the failed assassination attempt. He later, in testimony, says that Barzan ordered the torture of his sisters. They were all linked by family to someone who was involved in that failed assassination attempt, and that's something that Ali Haidari told told me when I was visiting with him some weeks ago. Because of that connection, everyone in that family, and Haidari says 43 family members were detained, suffered and endured torture, and he's very directly linked to Barzan Hassan al-Takriti. Now, we haven't seen Barzan Hassan al-Takriti stand up and object, which is something that we tend to see in these moments. Again, the defendant seemingly a bit more subdued today, despite being upbeat as they walked in. But this is a case that has to be built, Relitza, and in terms of a timeline, we're seeing now complaining witnesses, essentially witnesses that are called upon by the judge to give victim statements of what happened in the aftermath of this failed assassination attempt. As we go forward, the prosecution will not only bring witnesses, but will likely put forth documents as evidence, execution orders perhaps, death certificates, and then the defense will call witnesses as well. So they're sort of building the case by first laying out the emotional aftermath. And so they're saying, the court at least, that there's less pressure on these witnesses, these complaining witnesses, to provide evidence. At the same time, everyone is watching these early days of the trial, and the more that witnesses testify without directly linking these 8 defendants to the crimes, the less it seems like the court is progressing forward, Relitza.
Anish, stand by. I'd also like to address this question to Mark Ellis. He's with the International Bar Association. Mark, what are your thoughts as we have been listening to this testimony? What kind of a case is it helping build?
Well, Anish is correct, because what these witnesses are doing are essentially building a foundation in describing the events that occurred, because under crimes against humanity, you have to be able to show that it was a widespread, systematic attack against a civilian population. These can include acts of murder, torture that we've heard the witness describe, deportation, inhumane treatment. So this is very important to listen and to have on record these types of statements. I think it's particularly important that you have witnesses who were victims themselves, and this is exceedingly important because obviously they were there, being able to account exactly what occurred. So I think very compelling testimony, and a very important testimony, and particularly as we get closer to connecting the defendants to these orders.
What are your thoughts about what Anish himself brought up, that up to now, before this witness, we've had just 2 witnesses who have directly in any way linked any of the defendants to the alleged crimes?
Well, and I think that if that were to continue, I think it would be problematic. But again, it's important to set a base, and it's important to have witnesses to describe exactly what happened. I have very little doubt that the prosecutors will, in fact, be able to bring in witnesses, as they are doing right now, that are able to testify more directly as to the defendant's actions. But remember, it's also important, and under the statute, an individual in a position such as Saddam Hussein or others with authority cannot look at a subordinate and say, well, I'm sorry, I did not know they were doing that. They can't shift the responsibility to the subordinate, because part of one of the most important parts of this statute is to say that an individual in the position of Saddam Hussein who knew or should have known that these crimes were being committed and did nothing to stop them or punish those who were committing these crimes can be held responsible. And so it's part of a process of creating a very broad and very detailed picture of exactly what occurred. In essence, saying it really is impossible to suggest that individuals in authority didn't know what was going on. And I think that's an important backstop to presenting evidence that directly links these defendants to the acts that occurred in Dujal.
Mark will continue along those lines, but I wanted to go back to Anish and ask him a question just to put this in perspective a little bit more. Anish, tell us why Ali Hassan Mohammed al-Haidari's family, as you say, 43 members of this family, why were they specifically targeted?
Well, Relitza, when I spoke to him some weeks ago, he said that one of his brothers was involved in the failed assassination attempt. A handful of young men who, on that road, tried to kill Saddam Hussein with small arms fire. And because of that, essentially, it seems, the entire family was rounded up. And according to the witness that we're hearing from now, Ali Haidari, given sort of special preference to be tortured, specifically by Barzan Hassan al-Takriti. Now, also, to give sort of a larger sense of how this trial is going to proceed, these complaining witnesses, as I said, are men as sort sort of victim testimonies. After these are done, and we expect there to be 4 more after the man that you see there, we will see what is called witness testimony. Different because these person will not be complainants. They will not be giving victim sort of statements. They will rather be individuals who have relevant information about the case. That is where we will likely start to see a chain of command built towards Saddam Hussein, also more direct links with these defendants. Then after that, we will see documentary evidence examined. That could include execution orders, death certificates. That will be followed by the chamber breaking to draft the formal charging document. That's a lengthy document describing all of the evidence that was adduced to date and the laws that support that evidence. Then we see the prosecution followed by the defense bring their witnesses' testimony and their own documents that they want to enter into court. Then the defense counsel and the defendants will be given time to address the trial chamber, and that is followed by the deliberations and a verdict. So this is part of a very deliberate process that has been established within the statute. We are simply at the beginning of a lengthy legal process, the point of victim statements. So as we look to find these links between the witness statements and the defendants, they will likely be brought up in more specificity as we move forward. Ralitza?
Anish Raman, thank you very much. Joining us from inside the courtroom, watching these proceedings. He is watching them in real time. We are watching them delayed, videos delayed by about 20 minutes. So what we're watching right now happened more or less around 20 minutes ago. Anish, thank you very much. Back to Mark Ellis with the International Bar Association. He joins us from London to discuss what we're seeing right now. Mark, we heard from Anish that we're yet to see more specific evidence to prove the so-called command responsibility. In your mind, what kind of evidence does this court need to see to be able to prove this case beyond the circumstantial evidence tying indirectly Saddam Hussein or any of these co-defendants to those alleged atrocities?